70% of the world's population is non-white. So should we realistically expect that the teaching staff in an international school should reflect this demographic? Should we? Let's just say many international schools will hire locally and will give jobs to teachers from the host country, which is a great thing. And often it can be that almost half of the teachers will be from the host country. And if it's an international education school, whereby it's an international curriculum, but within the context of a particular country, it may be that a far greater proportion of the teachers are from the host country. And thus, if it's in Asia, more than likely to be Asian, or say in sub-Saharan Africa, are more than likely to be black. But we're not really talking about that sector when we're talking about racism, let's use the word, in hiring in international schools. It's fair to say that schools and recruitment agencies working on their behalf will quite usually specify in their adverts that they have preference for teachers trained in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, or South Africa. And, if that's not enough, they will specify that the teacher should be a native speaker of English. That way, they manage to exclude most of the world's black and brown people, coincidentally or not. Now, these are the same schools who profess in their mission statements that they embrace global citizenship, promote inclusion, reject all forms of discrimination, and have international minded, rooted in their mission and values. And yet, they rarely hire non-white teachers of their foreign teachers. Now, there are more progressive schools where that is not the case, and there are some fantastic school leaders around the world who will recruit the best people for a particular job, regardless of country of origin, ethnicity, or other factors. But they're in the minority. This sort of advert isn't uncommon in international recruitment. The recruitment officer has added a note to say the school has informed me that it will not accept applications from people who are not from predominantly English-speaking countries or who are black or dark-skinned. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Now, part of me wants to say don't shoot the messenger, but the agency is complicit. The school who stipulated this fact is abhorrent to my mind. This is open, explicit racism. And it's not uncommon in parts of Asia particularly. But it can be done more subtly. This is a job published through the European Commission, and it identified that they wanted an ESL teacher to be a native English speaker. Thus, narrowing it down to that small number of countries who could legitimately profess to be native English speakers. And thus excluding Anglophone people from across the world who technically English may be their additional language. Now, if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, in the Anglophone parts of Africa, virtually every country will have English as an official language. And most sub-Saharan Africans, certainly in urban areas, will grow up with at least plausible levels of English. Many progressive parents will teach their children to speak English in the home. And virtually every school in Anglophone Africa will teach through the medium of instruction English. Many young Africans probably have better technical levels of English, better spelling, better grammar than people who have grown up in other English-speaking parts of the world. Many of the teachers working in schools in sub-Saharan Africa, but also the Caribbean, parts of Asia, will be teaching Cambridge programs or international baccalaureate programs through the medium of English. In sub-Saharan Africa, the awards from Cambridge for the most outstanding students are often awarded. It is amazing how many sub-Saharan African students win these awards on an annual basis, because their English levels are good enough that they can learn in English to the level of someone in England, United States, Australia, etc. So it's just a way of screening out a certain group of people by putting this into an advert. Now, this is just an indication of how few black people there are in the international sector. This teacher going to an international school, like, wow, I'm the only black person here. And here's a story. This is a story of a woman being hired by an international school in Guangzhou. Took the job, thought there were a couple of black guys on the faculty, but then realized when she went to start work that she was the only black person there out of 40 or so teachers. So making up 2.5% of the faculty, when 70% of the global population is non-white. International schools are supposed to represent the global community. And if they don't do it through their teaching staff, then no program can compensate for that. As a follow-up to that, another recruiter told a black woman about a job in Egypt. It would probably be difficult for a black woman to go to that school. Often there's no reasons given. One can speculate at the reasons. I'll come to what a few of those reasons are often quoted as in short time. This is something I read very recently. It's only written this year. I worked as a recruiter for international schools. The industry is racist. The industry is racist. They actually identify candidates by levels. They're obviously going to be careful not to use the language of race in their workplace, but they will refer to level 1 and level 2 candidates. And as the recruitment agent says in their blog post, it was treated as if all black candidates were the same. Schools did not want to have too many black candidates. So the company became the gatekeepers, barring well-qualified candidates from opportunities to interview based upon their race. Now, I think it's a he, uses South Africa as an anecdote, and I've done the same in a blog post I've written. as the writer says, and I've alluded to earlier, many South Africans are native English speakers, often bi or trilingual, of their 11 languages in their country. They may speak Zulu, Ndebele, Setswana, Xhosa, etc. of the languages, but they will be raised speaking English and they'll be schooled in English. But this man was told if they have a tribal sounding name, it will be harder to place them, and it might be a waste of time. And indicates that when they had South Africans together, one black, one white, invariably they would pursue a job opportunity for the white candidate and not the black. Now, this is the fault of the recruitment agency. It's racist, but they are reflecting the recruitment policies of international schools across the world. Now, I should add, because I'm not going to be anti-white South African, that I've worked with tremendous white South Africans, some exceptionally well-qualified teachers who are diligent and serve the schools fantastically well. But they will have been through the same education system as black South Africans who aren't hired. And that's the case as well in the independent sector in South Africa. South African independent schools will have a mixture of teachers from different ethnicities. And often, at least half of the teachers will be black, working in that sector. And they'll be working with Cambridge programs and international baccalaureate as well. So they've got the experience, they've got the qualification, they've got the language, but schools don't want them because they're the wrong colour. That's it. There is no other reason. In TIE Online, this article identifies racism in recruiting as the elephant in our international education room. People don't want to talk about it. They want to brush it under the carpet. But you can have the wrong language, the wrong passport. It's hard to get you a visa. What will our parents think if we hire too many teachers from whichever country or whichever ethnicity? Schools profess diversity, equity, inclusion. They don't really screen when it comes to recruiting students because they're paying the money or their parents are paying the money. But when it comes to recruiting teachers, school leaders are afraid to take what they perceive to be a risk in hiring more black teachers. And this is often the case as well with black teachers coming from the United States or from Canada or from the United Kingdom and so on. They still will struggle to get the same amount of jobs as people who are Caucasian. And if we look at the leadership roles, we get into another can of worms. But having said that, last time I looked, there were less than 30 head teachers who were black or mixed race working in England. So the institutional racism that we all inherit if we are Caucasian, growing up in our countries of origin, if they are one of these 7 countries, we take the baggage with us. But we have a duty to educate ourselves, to be the lifelong learners who we encourage our students to be more sensitized towards these issues. And the Council of International School and COBIS, you have a duty to speak out explicitly. You run fantastic courses on cultural sensitivity. You're doing something in this area, and I praise you for it. But you need to call it out. This is the time. This is the time of a global Black Lives Matter movement. If footballers can do it, surely we can do it in the world of education. And that leads us to this idea of developing anti-racism in the workplace. Being inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement, If you're a recruiter, if you're school leaders, open up your eyes to the world of opportunity that you can give to your students. Let them be inspired by Black and Asian and other non-white educators. There's no point having a global perspectives IGCSE if it's always taught by white people. Widen, broaden your horizons. HR managers, school leaders, they need to take this on board. They need to take it seriously. A faculty should not look like this. This is from an international school's website. I won't identify them. Is that what you want at your school? Teaching in a multicultural environment where you celebrate your 65 different languages and your 40-something different countries that your student body come from. But your teachers don't. What are you doing about it? So how do schools rationalize this? How do they exclude these teachers and leaders of color? They cite parent expectations and visa laws and dozens of other weak excuses. Absolute baloney. Educate the parents. And don't expect all the parents to be racist. They're going to be sending their children to universities across the world. Their children are going to be having teachers, lecturers, professors from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, albeit predominantly white males. It's another story. Expose them to the world that they want to be exposed to. That's why they've gone to an international school. Educate the parents. Run workshops. Don't be put off by the minority, the more vociferous, and by anecdote. And visa laws. Nearly always, the visa laws will say that the teacher should have experience in working with the programs that the school offers. So, if a teacher from Nigeria has worked with Cambridge International or the International Baccalaureate, they will get a visa in your country. They will have exemptions from IELTS if they come from a country where English is an official language. And even when they don't, they're going to breeze a 6.5 or a 7 or whatever the requirement may be. These are weak excuses. We take the money from the diversity of families. We claim international mindedness and a global outlook, but we don't do it with recruitment of leadership and faculty. And as this author says, this isn't from my blog, this is similar. I challenge the IB to add diversity to its language. Don't hide behind the vague concept of international mindedness. Do something to be genuinely more diversive. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and perhaps leave a few comments and get some debate going. Do you agree with what I've said? Do you disagree? Have you things to add? Let's get a debate going. This issue really needs to be discussed in the international sector.